Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to be diving right into this video. Just a fair warning, you're probably going to hear this chair just because I can't help but just move around in these chairs, and I'm sure so many of you do the same thing. So if you hear something, it's not me, I promise, it's the chair. Today I want to dive into the 5 books I read for March, and I mainly stuck to my TBR, but I also kind of trailed away for a little bit. But I'm kind of glad I did, just because I found a few more books that I want to go over. And yeah, so let's get started. Yeah, so a lot of these books I did read on my Kindle, so I don't have the physical copy, so I'll just post like a picture up here and show you the picture of the book. So the first book I read for March was Regretting You by Colleen Hoover, and I had this downloaded into my Kindle for the longest time. I'm just gonna go into it. I did rate it at 3.5 stars. I'm not gonna really go that much in depth about it just because I don't want to spoil it for anybody. I just want to say that this book was not what I expected. I had it sitting in my Kindle for the longest time, and I just decided to read it one day because I just wanted to read something kind of quick, and Colleen Hoover's books are something I go through pretty quickly just because they're so dramatic and so emotional, where I have to find out what's gonna happen. I felt like it was really dramatic and kept me hooked the entire time. I just wanted to see what happened, and the betrayal in this book was intense. Yeah, so this book, there was just so much betrayal in it. I didn't expect that. I had a feeling that it would be kind of more uncovered. I think that's why I was kind of hoping for more, but I understand what she was trying to do and what the main purpose of the story was. Just a heads up, if you do read this book, don't go into it just basing it off of the synopsis, because that's what I did, and it didn't really make me want to read it. But a lot of the emotions I got from this book were the mother and daughter relationship, and just the mom and the family and everybody just trying to adapt after deaths within the family. It was just one of those books that you just have to read. You don't just base it off the synopsis. And yeah, I was really surprised with the emotions that came out of me when I read this book. I feel like this is a Colleen Hoover book I don't hear a lot of people talking about. I know that a good amount of people talk about it, but I felt like it was a really good book. It kept me hooked the entire time. You put yourself into the position of the characters, you start to get more connected to the characters and then feel for some of the characters. Like, you just feel so bad for them. Just the betrayal within this book, the coming of age, being a parent, and also, like, you get the both sides. So you get like the parent side, and then you get the sides of her daughter. I just felt like it was really portrayed really well. Although there was just some parts within the book that some of the characters kind of did things where I got irritated of. And I think the only reason I gave it a 4 star was I felt like I wanted there to be more uncoverings about the big conflict within the story. I understand why she didn't do that, just because that's not the main purpose of the story. I feel like it was a good book to kick off March, and yeah, it kept me hooked the entire time. I had fun with it. Okay, so the next book is something I loved so much, and it's If We Were Villains by ML Rio. I found this to be such a good book. I feel like it was just so poetic and lyrical, and I think this is her first book, which I find to be so fascinating because it was written so well. So it's about these pretentious theatrical students that are obsessed with like Shakespeare and that type of vibe. It is definitely an academia vibe. The book I rated overall was a 4.5, if not 5 stars. I felt like the only reason I didn't rate it a complete 5 stars is because I did feel like it was missing something. The only thing I would kind of have wanted was maybe the twist to be a little bit more intense, because I kind of saw it coming. But the ending, there is a big cliffhanger. I guess you can kind of say it's a cliffhanger. I'm not for sure if it is, but there's a little bit unanswered. So I don't know if she's gonna be making another book for it. But this book was just, I felt like it covered so much, and I was looking for like an academia vibe, something that involved more lyrical and poetic. This book I was kind of intimidated to go into just because I didn't know it was gonna be that easy to follow. A lot of this book is based on like Shakespeare and the plays. So if you don't read that stuff, I feel like for me reading it and not knowing any of that stuff, not ever really paying attention to that stuff in school, I fell into this book really easily. I didn't have any issues trying to get through it. It was easy to read, and honestly, I feel like you don't have to understand Shakespeare and all that. They do date a lot of these phrases within the book, but it's nothing to where you're kind of lost or you get confused. I feel like you don't have to. Like, you could still read this book. They attend this like really high academic school, which is, I think, devoted just to fine arts. So there's like singing and theatrical stuff like that, like anything within the fine arts. And the way that explains the castle of the school, I just felt like it was so cool. Like, I just wanted to attend that school. I wanted to see it. And the rooms, they had like their own little rooms and common rooms. One of the reasons why I really liked this book a lot was because I felt so connected to the characters, and they have like a really great found family, and I think that's why I really connected with this book, and I loved that they had this. So one thing about this book too, I think there's about like 6 characters. I'm not for sure, so I'll put it right here. But I thought I was gonna have a little bit trouble following each character, and you don't. So you kind of start to just know in the beginning, you might kind of get a little bit confused, but as you go on, it really sticks with you, and you start to follow each character so you know who is who. So I didn't have any issues with that, and normally I get lost pretty easily, but when it came to this book, I just felt I felt for the characters. You just feel so like you feel for them, and I actually felt the love when reading this book between their found families and then their personal lives. So I feel like this was a really, really great book. There's a lot of like angst and drama in it. I felt like the drama of it was really interesting because it wasn't just like a basic drama. It was like a theatrical type of drama, and I guess they start to, when you read the book, the characters, something happens within the book and the characters can't distinguish their own personal lives between their lives on stage, and it was meshed really well. This was such an amazing read. I really loved it. Not gonna lie, this is probably one of my most favorite books that I probably will recommend to people, just because it really was a poetic book. It was just an art piece, and everything that, how she explained everything, you just felt like you were actually there. I do wish I have read this more near like the fall, autumn time, just because I think a lot of the books takes place during that time, and I really would have felt it more. So I do want to read this again during that time. But I love this book, and I was really shocked. I thought it was gonna be kind of intimidating, just because it sounds a little intimidating, and you think it's like, oh, it's gonna be a Shakespearean, like hard to follow, theatrical type of vibe. I'm not a theatrical person or student. Like, I cannot act for the life of me, but I'm gonna say for sure that this book was something that I could follow really easily, and I had so much fun with it. I kept wanting to read it. I just remember keep reaching out for it, and then even afterwards I kept thinking about the characters. So I would definitely recommend this if you guys are deciding to reach out for it. Okay, so the next book I went into was Layla by Colleen Hoover. I wanted to read this for a while just because I've been wanting to read a paranormal I say that's so weird. I've been wanting to read this for a while just because I wanted to reach out to another paranormal romance. I don't know why I can't say that word, but paranormal romance. And so I rated it a 2 or 3 star read, only because I don't know what it was. I think it's one of her earlier books, but the writing wasn't like her other books. I felt like it wasn't, kind of got a little bored sometimes, and some of the characters I got so angry at when it came to lead. The two main characters are Lead and Layla, and he takes her back to one of their old, I think like a bed and breakfast, to where he can kind of rekindle their memories, and about them rehabilitating their relationship after a traumatic accident that happened to Layla, and they just experience some ghostly encounters within it. I found that to be so interesting, and it wasn't anything where it was like creepy or anything. So if you are like, if you do get kind of scared easily when it comes to like paranormal stuff, it wasn't creepy at all. Like, I don't feel like it was creepy. I felt like the relationship within it, some parts were just really cute and kind of sweet, but it's so sad, and it's like a disconnected type of relationship. So I would definitely suggest this book if you are looking to read it. The only reason I rated it such a low star read was because I felt like I kept getting kind of bored throughout the story. I normally stay like really connected to where I want to keep reading it. I did want to find out what was going to happen and finish this book overall, but in general I felt like it wasn't, the flow of it just wasn't as, it wasn't there for some reason. I felt like it wasn't flowing as much as I thought it was going to be compared to her other book. A lot of it didn't have like that angsty type of feeling, and I just got so mad at Lead, his perception of things. But then I also kind of understand what he's going through. I don't personally understand what he's going through, but you kind of put yourself in their shoes and you kind of can try to connect with them and see, okay, like I kind of get it. Still gave me that paranormal romance that I was kind of looking for. So yeah, overall I'm just gonna go with a 3-star read. I'm sorry, I'm a Libra, so I'm really indecisive, but yeah, a 3-star read for sure. Okay, so the next book I was really anticipating, this is Ambrosia by C.N. Crawford. This is her second book next to Frost, and I actually gave this like a maybe 2.5 or 3-star read. I was kind of disappointed. I did have fun with it, and it was action packed, and I really liked it in a way. I think I just mainly liked it because I kept wanting to see what's going to happen to the characters. This one was more of an action packed. So compared to like Frost, I don't think Frost was as action packed. It was more of like a romance, but like a fantasy romance with a little bit of humor in it. So that's why I really liked the first one, because it was humorous, me wanting to read more. It was like watching a hilarious and ridiculous reality show, but with a fantasy world. And I just felt like the second one wasn't, I think I was just putting so much hope into this and so much anticipation that I was a little bit disappointed. I'm honestly not crazy about action packed scenes, and I felt like the whole story was just action packed. One thing though, this book was definitely a slow burn, and it did have some cute parts in there, but I felt like you could just tell they're just trying to wrap up the story. I know that a lot of people did complain in the first book that they didn't get perceptions of the other characters, like her best friend and the other people left in the Sealy Kingdom in Frost, and I can kind of understand why she was trying to do within the second one. I can tell she was trying to put perspective, but you just didn't get it as much. It was almost like, okay, I'm gonna throw this in here, but you still didn't get enough perspectives, and it didn't really mesh well. Like it was like almost like you put it in there, but it wasn't as needed. I'm not trying to hate on this book because I still had fun with it. I still love Frost. It doesn't change my opinion on it. So, but the thing is too, you do get a lot of your answers, and I think the only reason I kind of rated it low is because sometimes I would get lost and a little bit confused, and I just couldn't picture, like, so normally when you read stories, you can kind of picture what's going on, especially with the action scenes, and a lot of the action scenes, I was just kind of confused. I just felt like I couldn't picture what was actually happening, and I was like, wait, how did this person, like, what happened to this person? I wouldn't want to make someone feel like they can't read this book, because I feel like you could still read this book, and who knows, you might enjoy it way much more than I did. Because honestly, one thing about this book was that I felt when it came to discussing, like, you're in a different environment compared to where you were in the first book, and the way she described this environment, she's just really good when it comes to descriptions. So I felt like she was really descriptive of the environment, setting of the book. So that's just like for sure one thing I really like, and it kind of kept me wanting to like stay connected, because when it comes to descriptive books, I love when you can feel like you're immersed into the setting. So I definitely felt that part. But yeah, I was just still happy to see the main characters. So the last book I have to go over is the only physical book I have in my hands, or yeah, in general. This is The Red Queen by Victoria Aveyard. I did go to the library for the first time in so many years, and it was, I'm probably gonna do a vlog about it, but it was just, yeah, I'm so happy I did. And I wasn't planning on reading this book. I know that I wanted to read it, but I wasn't planning on reading it this month. But they just happened to have this book within the library, and I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna pick it up because I'm here. I was getting some other books, and I just figured I'm just gonna pick it up, and I've heard things about it, and I kind of felt like I was in the mood for it. I was kind of in the mood for like a badass female protagonist where she's just like a ruthless queen. This is a little bit not what I expected. I'm probably gonna be doing a separate video on this. I don't have a rating for this. I felt like, I don't know, I just can't. That's what I'm gonna be going over in the next video, because I just can't figure out how I feel about this book. There was the outline of it, and the basis of it is really cool. So it's like a dystopian world. But yeah, I don't want to go too in depth about this because I'm gonna be going over it in another video. I do have to say, I don't know how to rate this book because I'm so torn. I like loved it, and then I hated it. Okay, so that's it for my March wrap up. I actually had fun this month. I feel like it was a good reading month. I felt like I found some really favorite books, such as If We Were Villains, and I feel like If We Were Villains and Regretting You were like my top two. Also, surprisingly, The Red Queen, but that's just like a different story. And yeah, so I read more than I anticipated. I had so much fun this month, and I hope you guys had a really great reading month as well. Let me know what you guys are currently reading this month or want to read next month. And if you guys have read any of these books, let me know how you feel. Just because I say like I don't like a certain book or I don't feel as connected to it, I'm not trying to ever hate on anybody else's books. I feel like if anything, I'm just kind of missing out on what someone else might be seeing. Kind of more sad for me, if anything. It's just like, oh man, like what's wrong with me? Why am I not connecting with this like everybody else? But yeah, let me know what you guys are reading, and I'll see you guys in the next video.
Slow down, hold on tight now. It's okay to meet me